Yeah, hello and welcome. Kate and Hazy with you through until 8:30. It's going to be a big morning. Looking forward to discussing all the latest fallout from Port Adelaide's finals exit with the Port fans, and also heaps of footy news as a lot of coaching departments start to take shape. Hamish Hartlett is going to join us, has been told by Port Adelaide his time is up. What a player he has been, what a club man. So looking forward to speaking to Hammer about how he's feeling at this emotional time and what is next. Michelangelo Rucci, as always. CJ Bruton, the new coach of our Adelaide 36ers, is going to join us after 8 o'clock. Your calls, 1300 736 736. Hazy is in SNSA Studio Lumo. I'm in Perth. It's 4:33. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Kane. Let's get you up and about because it's nice and early over there. We're just cruising around Adelaide time. A little bit nippy, must be said, in South Australia, but the sun is just starting to peek over the hill. So we're in two different worlds, and you're just trying to acclimatise. Are you in Adelaide time? Have you adjusted? Does it feel like 4:30 in the morning now?
Yeah, it does. It feels like about 2 in the morning. So footy classified last night, so it's already a late night, and then you sort of I had half a light beer last night, Hazy. So
Excuse me?
I've got a hangover. This is what's happened to me.
You've
I've got a
lost
hangover
control.
this morning.
You're out of control.
I'm off the rails.
An intervention is not too far away. Hang on. Where does a light beer come into it? I know we're building up to the grand final, and people like to really responsibly enjoy beverages at a rapid rate, if that's even possible. But are you on board? Because I know some beers that I think you could try. Perhaps you'll enjoy. Here we go. I like this path.
Yeah, so I was just doing the show outside of Optus Stadium, which is magnificent, by the way. It's reasonably close to where I'm staying, so just the precinct around Optus, I'd never been to the ground, never seen a game of footy there, but we've got an SEN office there as well at the lower level of Optus Stadium, which is amazing, really. And then yeah, Hutchie was in town, and just there's an amazing sort of hotel complex just right across the road, like stone's throw from Optus. So just caught up there for half a light beer, Hazy, and I've got a headache and feeling all sorts of rubbish this morning. Am I hungover or what? What is that feeling?
I think that genuinely is what a hangover is, but
Nah,
usually what comes before a hangover is you feel this kind of, I don't know, almost enlightened, like you see things just a little bit differently. I think they call that being slightly inebriated. So that's potentially where you were at last night, off half a light beer. It's possible. It is possible.
It might be possible. It's been years since alcohol has hit my lips. So maybe it is possible. I doubt that, though. But no, it was... Yeah, it's interesting. The every time you turn on the TV here, it's all about the grand final, as you can imagine. I think they're going to do a magnificent job. It's just flattening, isn't it, though, that Port Adelaide aren't going to be a part of it. What a wasted opportunity. We'll speak to Hamish Hartlett about that. But yeah, and also last night I was sort of 2 or 3 seconds delayed on the link from on Footy Classified. So it was one of the more challenging nights to do the TV show that I've had. I was almost guessing about when the person was going to stop talking so I could start, so it didn't look like much of a delay. But yeah, it wasn't great. I know you had an experience, Hazy, when you're on TV that you were telling me about the other week, where you lost communication with the studio back in Adelaide. Is that correct? And can you share that story? It's quite funny.
Complete communication lost. So just to paint a picture, I'm not sure if I should be saying this because I genuinely did some illegal things. So usually if we're doing a cross at Alberton, I'll leave at, say, 6:15, means I'll get there at 6:30 and we'll be right to go by 6:45. 15 minutes, plenty of time to get set up. So this particular time, which was about a week and a half ago, jumped in the BT 50, 6:10 it was, and which is ample time to get down there. And,
on air at when?
6:45. So it takes 15 minutes max to get from Channel 7 to Alberton. This particular time, I got to around about Woodville, and we just stopped in traffic, like genuinely stopped. There was couldn't move, and we didn't move for 20 minutes, and I'm locked inside the middle lane, and I'm starting to really panic. I'm looking over to my left. It's a Woodville hotel, and it's 6:35. on in 10 minutes. And I'm calculating, and I've even got it in my maps. It's saying you're 9 minutes away, even if you were travelling. You're not even travelling. So I start to really panic. I got out of the BT50, said to the person next to me, can you just go forward? And the person behind that person, can you just go back so I can squeeze the BT50 out? And I did. I had to legally jump over a nature strip. Maybe I had to go down just for a few metres down the wrong side of Port Road to get into a back street. Absolutely going crazy down the back streets. Got to this particular spot, 6:43 or on 6:45, whacked the suit on, and then bang, no program down the ear. So the camo can hear the program. So Soda's trying to say things like, oh, what's going on down there? I can't hear anything. I'm just nodding away like an absolute idiot before the cameraman just points, just gives you a big wave and starts speaking, and then waves, stop speaking, nod, speak again, and then throw back to Soda. And then just hope that was okay. An absolute mess. How did it come up? Not too bad.
Yeah, well, you sort of pulled it off. It's really difficult to, when you have those sort of technical difficulties, you don't want to let on like anything at home is up. But anyway, that was what happened last night. I actually enjoyed your story as well, Hazy, but you pulled it off. Not sure how we went last night. 1300 736 736. How are you feeling, Port fans, as you're waking up to the second day of a bit of misery? I did see on Channel Hazy last night, actually, on social media, about those Port supporters that had got their tickets, had got their accommodation a week early and had to sell them. So were you one of those? Did you get a ticket? Did you book it? What have you done with it? Are you still going to go and sit through a grand final not involving your team, or did you manage to offload those to a third party? Let us know your thoughts. I thought it was a bit rough. Mark Stevens, the massive Bulldog supporter, now media advisor to the Liberal Party over in Victoria, and former Channel Hazy worker, sort of had a crack at the Port supporters for getting their tickets, Hazy. He said, never jumped the gun essentially, but you had to, didn't you? I mean, did you see prices and how much they were going to go up if Port Adelaide won?
Exactly. So particularly flights, they were almost tripling by the day. So you had to take a bit of a punt. It's not like the stock standard Adelaide to Melbourne route, or actually what you would do. I mean, it's a pretty easy decision if you're a Port Adelaide supporter and you wanted to save some coin. You go, it's easy. We'll drive to Melbourne. Bit of a different story if you want to drive to Perth. You had to make these decisions. So all of a sudden, I think unless you get a special airfare, the best you could probably do was get a credit back in terms of a refund. So I had to get some flights mid-year through Virgin, I reckon it was, to Queensland to try and go to a funeral, and that all got shifted and shaped to a different direction. So now I've got all these bunch of credits. So I think there's a lot of Port Adelaide supporters with some solid credits in the bank through airfares.
Yeah, let us know if that's you. 0427 154 166. You can join in the conversation with us. There's plenty to get through. Footy news as well. We'll do all of that in our footy shorts. Hamish Hartlett's going to join us as Port Adelaide go about making their decisions on their list. A bit of talk about Ken Hinkley's future and what it means for him. David Koch yesterday, speaking strongly about how disappointing the performance was, but they won't be making any rash decisions on the coach, as much as a lot of Port Adelaide fans are a bit disgruntled about the direction that they're going, and there's a lot of talk about the future of the coach as he enters his 10th year next year. Let us know your thoughts on all of that. And you can jump on and have your say.
Will be a different coaching panel, nonetheless. Jared Schofield won't be there. Who knows what's going to happen with Michael Voss? So some change is definitely coming. I mean, Vossi's going to be the big one. Could they slot someone else into a line? Is that something that Chad Corns is interested in?
I haven't spoken to Chad about that. It was sort of on the cards, though, wasn't it? I mean, we've been speaking about Scully for a long time, and it's a big role. That midfield role is, as you saw in the prelim final, minus 23 in contested footy, game over. I mean, that's why the midfield is so important. So, look, I think they will go externally to replace him. Michael Voss told us yesterday on this show that he has spoken to Carlton. How far that goes, I'm not sure. But I think they'll definitely have to look elsewhere to try and replace some of these coaches. And there's heaps on the market, really, because of what's happened in the last couple of years. So they'll get a really good person in there to replace Scully, and they'll shuffle the decks, and they might have to wait a little while to find out what's happening with Vossi. But Yeah, it's a big time of change, isn't it? And similarly at the Adelaide Footy Club, not from a coaching standpoint, but from a playing roster, we didn't sort of, with the fallout from the Port prelim, we didn't have a look in close yesterday about what Adelaide are doing with their playing list. But once again, they have lost a fair amount of experience, haven't they, Hazy? So, how they can replace, I'm not sure how many games it would be, but it would be hundreds of games with Talia and Lynch and McKay and now Kelly leaving. It's four big experienced bodies, and they're probably going to have to try and be replaced with some players that have played some footy. No, they're into Jordan Dawson, but what else? So, Crows fans, you can have your say as well on how you can get better next year. Jump on the phone and have your say. Rubbing salt into the wounds, lads, was Scully and Hammer leaving, and not one club email to the members. I didn't. So it was nothing official, was it, Hazy? You tell me if I'm wrong, but there's been nothing official from the footy club about Hamish Hartlett?
Well,
there has been about Scully.
Yeah, there has been from Scully, but not from Hamish Hartlett. So we're going to speak to him this morning. But that was, the first round of exit meetings yesterday. So, that is all coming. That's on the horizon, you would have thought. But Scully obviously was, because they need to put an email out before West Coast could announce it. But I would assume that members could expect something really soon. I'm interested in this text as well on 0427154166. Just crashed my car after hearing the news about feathers smashing half a beer. And it is hard to digest. It really is hard to digest. Just picturing Kane Corns with any sort of alcoholic beverage anywhere near his lips is just, it's
on
hard to get your head around. On a Monday night. What is it, Mad Monday? Goodness gracious me. Keep your eyes on the prize. So good luck to whoever that is after you've crashed your car. Sorry for saying such outrageous things, and apparently it's true.
Yeah, apologies for that on a Monday night. Actually, the scary thing is it went down pretty well, Hazy. That's the scary. So I'm gonna have to run for a good 2.5 hours this morning.
Hey, just a hint as well. That's when they go down the best, when they're not supposed to. So you have just sort of one beer. Look, it's a Monday night and it's late and I'm a little bit thirsty and there's nothing else cold in the house. I'll have a beer, and all of a sudden that beer decides to be the best beer that you've ever had in your life when you know you can only have one.
Yeah, frightening. So I'm off the rails here. I need an intervention. I'm ashamed of myself. I feel really ordinary this morning. So get us up. We're gonna have to get through the next couple of hours with you. If Vossi is a candidate for the Carlton vacancy, what part did he play in Port Adelaide preliminary final loss, possibly harming his chances? Thoughts, Kane? Well, didn't help, did it? It's always, whether it's right or wrong, the coaches that do get the senior jobs are from successful programs, and that's a pretty obvious thing to say. But if he had won a premiership at Port Adelaide, rightly or wrongly, his reputation would have grown significantly for help guiding Port Adelaide to get there. So the prelim finals loss absolutely wouldn't have helped, but I don't think it's going to hold him back in the long run. He's a pretty impressive sort of operator, Michael Voss. He's got a wealth of experience, one of the best players we've ever seen, but has also coached at senior level and then worked hard at his coaching game for the last, 7 or 8 years. He will get another opportunity. Just not sure whether it's right time for him to go to Carlton now, and whether they would go there after him being through the process last time and getting so close.
Keep those texts coming through. 0427154166. We'd love to take a call from you all throughout the morning up until 8:30 as well. 1300 736 736. We're a tight-knit SEN SA family. We know that. Maybe I need some help on just how to raise my children. Can I do that? Can I put it out to the faithful?
Bit of parent corner this morning.
It's parent corner. Give me some advice. I have a 3.5-year-old and just going through that little phase. So we take him, Kane, to Ready Steady Kids, which is basically a little introduction to sports. The kids go there. 1 week it might be football. Loves cricket. Yesterday it was cricket. They'll get the bat, they'll get the ball, the little cones. They'll set them up and he can have a bit of a fun and get himself just exposed to some of these sports. It's fantastic. So yesterday, Henry, I think the drill was he had to put the ball on the cone and hit it, to which he wanted to throw the ball. And we were 20 minutes in, and this is filmed from my wife. He decided that he didn't want to take part in what was going on, so he threw one of the most almighty tantrums that you've ever seen. And when you think of a genuine stereotypical tantrum, like face down on the ground,
screaming,
punching the ground, at absolute such a velocity that she just thinks it's dangerous. He did that for a good 10 minutes before Cara had to pick him up, carry him, almost subdue him, put him in the pram, almost lock him down, and take him home. To which he cried on the walk home, absolutely carrying on, throwing whatever he could find for a good 25 minutes.
Wow.
And Cara has documented a good part of this, sent it to me. I could only watch the first 10 to 15 seconds before I had to put the phone down and go for a walk.
Right, you were rattled.
I was rattled. How you could put up with this in real time as well, in front of a good 20 other kids and parents, and who actually dealt with the situation pretty well, is just a gift in itself. Big shout out to the teachers, to the parents out there who put up with things like this, who know how to handle things like this, because, gosh, you do a good job. And if I'm in that situation by myself, I need help on how to deal with the situation because I'm scared.
So he's not into his sport. He doesn't want to participate, Hazy.
No, he loves it. He loves it. But there's a couple of times where he wants to do something else, but the instruction from the coach is, hey, everyone, we're going to do this. And he goes, no, I want to go in a different direction because I'm a bit of a rogue. And
so he's a Nick Kyrgios type.
He's a mini Nick Kyrgios.
So he's not going to be a team. He's not a team sport kind of guy. So 0427154166. Henry Hayes, what sport is he best suited to? He's not. He can't play footy because if he goes against the team instructions, you can't just drop and have a tantrum, Hazy.
He's a bad boy.
He might be an individual. I don't know, rower. He could be a tennis player. He might be a golfer. Although he might chuck his clubs and hit someone over the head with a club if it doesn't go to plan. But what's the tactic there? Is it ignore the tantrum and for as long as you can, or do you tell him to get up, Henry, or what is the tactic? Is there anything that works?
See, the problem that I've got with dealing with a 3.5-year-old is that I sometimes fall in the trap of dealing with a 3-year-old the same way that I deal with a 25 to 35-year-old, and that shouldn't be done. Cara keeps on telling me, just remember, he's 3 years old. And then I've got to go, okay, yeah, right, that's what 3-year-olds do. The tactic yesterday was to immediately threaten to leave. No, if you keep this up, we're going. And then she had to go through with it. So there was a good 15, 20 minutes left of the session. And she had to pick Henry up, drag him out of there, and lock him down and take him home, unfortunately.
Well, she's an absolute saint. So she can be our Tuesday hero this morning. Henry needs to have a good hard look at himself, as do I, for hitting the town last night on a Monday night and paying the price for it. We're up and running this morning. Kane and Hazy with you. It's 21 minutes past 6 o'clock. We'd love for you to join in the conversation with us. Get involved. Send us a text, give us a call. We've got a big show coming up. Hamish Hartlett, the new coach of the Adelaide 36ers, CJ Bruton, and Michelangelo Rucci as always.
Kane slurring his words, hurling abuse. That's the after effects. Big Monday night. It's Mad Monday. 20 degrees in Adelaide, partly cloudy right now. 7 degrees in the city. Be able to do it thanks to Tyre Power's big footy final sale, which is on now. And get half price off vitamins at Chemist Warehouse. 20 minutes past 6. Good morning.
Yeah, it's a very good morning to you. It is 26 minutes past 6 o'clock. Kane Hazy with you through until 8:30. Coming up, Michelangelo Rucci, Hamish Hartlett, the new coach of the Adelaide 36ers, CJ Bruton. Looking forward to doing that and your calls, of course. Hazy is at SENSA Studio Lumo. I'm in Perth. I'm drinking instant coffee because nothing's open for a cafe here. It's times are tough. I'm nursing a hangover, Hazy. You just got to get me up this morning. It's all I can ask of you.
Can't believe it. Who would have thought? I did think that it probably wouldn't have taken much. Half a light beer. Bit of feedback as well coming back through the text line 0427154166 saying, who drinks light beer? Well, this guy does. Who would have thought that it was actually available? What did Hutchie put away?
The local variety. Emu, I think it's called.
Emu Bitter.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Anyway,
yeah,
just a couple of quiet ones. I'm only mucking around. I'm
Perth.
not hungover. I think I'm more adjusting to the body clock and things like that. Perth's have you been to Perth much? It's an interesting place. I haven't been here for years since I've finished playing. Really, it's trying to get your bearings about actually where you are. Like there's staying the amazing Swan River, and I was like, I went for a run along the river. I was like, where does this lead? It's just really hard to find out actually where you are. But have you spent much time in Perth?
I've been to Perth once. I went over there for a wedding and we spent a couple of days there. And yeah, new city, new format. Everything's different. Left is right, right is left. You look down the street. Dogs are walking people. Saw Basil Zemplis with a crown and a walking stick because he's the king over there. It's all just a little bit backwards.
I've seen Basil like he's on TV the whole time.
Yeah.
Basil, like you can't. He's the absolute king. But yeah, Perth back in the day was Perth, but now it absolutely feels like a different country. That like Perth is and Western Australia is almost separate from Australia. So anyway, very very fortunate to be here. I wished it was here to watch Port Adelaide have a crack at winning their second premiership. It is not. But anyway, it's going to be an amazing show that they're going to put on. Absolutely no doubt. The stadium is just magnificent. So we've got a week or so to talk about it though, and it's going to be a bit of a long and slow build up.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest, like we said yesterday, I hadn't really prepared that Port Adelaide weren't going to be in this position. So it feels like the season's almost finished, but it's going to be an amazing grand final. Would have liked it to be this weekend with no bye. It's probably drawing out just a little bit, but that's okay. 0427 154 166. It's funny that you should mention that it feels like a different country over there. I did see a survey recently where the majority of Western Australians call themselves West Australians before they call themselves Australians.
Yeah.
So they feel like they're in a different country as well.
Yeah, it's like, do you identify? I think the poll question was, do you identify yourself as so for us, Australian or South Australian first? Which one comes to mind first? Are you an Australian or are you a South Australian? And I would just think, well, I'm an Australian. Like if you went overseas and you went to America and someone said, "Hey, where are you from, Aussie?" and you say, "Yeah, I'm Australian." But the Western Australians identify themselves as West Australians first before Australians. It's kind of the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's very unique. It's quite the flight over there. And like you said, it's very much a different world. 0427 154 166. Some advice coming through as well, like this. Cadbury Cane and Hazy. Little Henry needs a bit of tough love. A couple of cracks of the old whip, Jamie Carr style on the old romp. We'll sharpen the boy up. That's from Mick. That's good old school love, Mick. And that's how I was brought up. But unfortunately, times have changed just a little bit. And putting that sort of behaviour through my wife, it's not going to go down too well, particularly when she's a teacher as well. This one says, "Good morning, boys. Hazy, your son's behaviour is very normal. That's exactly how I behaved 15 minutes into the first quarter on Saturday night." That's from Andrew Croydon.
So that's Ange called us yesterday, and he was very measured as he always is, but just hurting as a lot of Port Adelaide fans are. Take us through the emotions for the Port fans. That were there. 0427 154 166. So speaking of tantrums, like my son just can't watch. He's just hopeless to the point where even if it looks like they're going to lose halfway through the second quarter, he's in tears. Now he's not 3.5, Hazy. He's 11. So I don't know what's happened to son. He's very very emotional little guy. Can you imagine how he handled that loss on Saturday night? He had to sleep in our room, Hazy. I said he was just distraught. I said, "Sonny, go and get a mattress, drag it into our room." Because he just wasn't going to be able to sleep. This is what football does. Why do we even like football? It ruins people. It ruined my son on Saturday night. It's ruined Ange. It's ruined a lot of Port supporters. 0427 154 166. It is 29 minutes to 7 o'clock. Hazy's world famous sports update coming up. There's plenty of sport to get through this morning as well. And then we'll get to our footy shorts because there's been moves made left, right and centre across the AFL industry. If you want to get involved, like Ange did, 0427 154 166.
All right, we'll do it thanks to Mazda as well. The Mazda Moment mid-season event is on at 6:30. Let's catch up with Alex Riddell in the newsroom. Text line this morning, busy thanks to Weeks. Discover a better way to build Weeks homes. Discover different. The number is, you know it, 0427 154 166. This one reads, "G'day lads. Kane, never have I felt so connected to you. Getting on the gas after a bad loss. Finally, a true power supporter. Won't be long before Hazy and Kane hit Hindley Street." Well played, Kane.
Yep, thank you. We are bonding, myself and the Port supporters, so thank you for that. Sounds like Port Adelaide has ruined Sonny's life, Kane. Think about my girls. They follow the Suns, says the Gold Coast Crow. That's rough. Karma Bus got Port Adelaide after what the you-know-what state put the doggies through, got what they deserved, says Dale, who's listening to us in Essendon this morning. Thanks for joining in and thanks for tuning in. You can do so on the SEN app or 1629 SEN SA. Of course, it is time now for Hazy's World Famous Sports Update for Hyundai forklift service and support that can only an independent dealer can provide. Hazy, take it away.
Good on you, Kane. Let's start with some cricket. Cricket Australia has confirmed Test captain Tim Payne will undergo neck surgery. That happened on Tuesday, yesterday, which will keep the 36-year-old sidelined for a few weeks. So Payne has been unable to train in recent weeks due to restricted movement in his spine, which has caused major discomfort. Spine's pretty important. On Tuesday afternoon, Cricket Australia released a statement revealing the wicketkeeper will be put under the knife later that day to repair the pinched nerve in his neck. He's expected to resume training later this month, but may not be match ready for another few weeks after that. You know what that means?
What's that mean?
It means our boy Alex Carey.
That's what it does mean. Absolutely, that's what
Fair
it means.
dinkum in the mix.
Yeah, I was thinking it means who's going to captain the country, but he's the next one in. He's the next club. Then you just need, unfortunately, someone else's misfortune often leads to the start of a long Test career. So he will be next in, our boy Alex Carey. If that's the way it goes, I think he would do an amazing job. Who's the skipper? Who would captain the Aussies in the Ashes?
Is it Pat Cummins? Is that the
It's
obvious
probably the
choice?
obvious one. Yeah, I don't know if it's obvious because it's been a while since the Aussies have had a tearaway fast bowler being captain of the country. 0427 154 166. Let us know who's your captain for the Aussies for the Ashes. Massive series for Justin Langer and for the Australian group with the pressure that they're under. If Tim Payne can't get up, let us know your thoughts on that. I don't think it'll be Steve Smith, as much as I think he would be open to doing it. I'm not sure how that would be received. So let us know. Is it Pat Cummins as the new skipper of his country if Tim Payne can't get up?
Look, really random and a bit of a throwback, but for whatever reason, he just jumped into my head, and sometimes I can't control these thoughts. Remember Colin Funky Miller?
I do remember Colin Funky Miller.
When's the next Colin Funky Miller coming through? Someone who's genuinely going to be bowling for Australia with pink hair.
Yeah, and he could bowl offies and he could bowl medium paces. He was a very talented cricketer. He won the Allan Border medal, I reckon, one year. Had an unbelievable year. It was either the AB medal or he won Test Player of the Year. But yeah, we haven't seen anything like him for a while.
Jeez, yes, he was a unique individual. Still on cricket, India's cricket board chief Sourav Ganguly said their players refused to play the fifth and final test against England due to the COVID concerns and denied that the upcoming Indian Premier League had played any part in the decision. This is a mess. The Old Trafford test was cancelled last Friday, barely 2 hours before it was scheduled to start, as the tourists, who were leading the series 2-1, failed to field a side after their physiotherapist tested positive for COVID-19. Former England captain Michael Vaughan suggested that India's players were petrified of testing positive ahead of the IPL, which resumes on September 19 in the UAE. But England and Wales Cricket Board CEO Tom Harrison has said the cancellation had nothing to do with the IPL, and Ganguly echoed those comments. It was a really bad way to finish the series because it's one of the great matchups, India v England. I love watching it in terms of, it tests you how much you like cricket when you see two other nations play. I really enjoy watching India and England go at it.
Yeah, it was an absolute epic, and it just had me thinking about what happens when cases are going to be through the roof all across the country shortly. So, all of these sporting bodies that haven't had to face this yet, what are they going to do when there is a player that tests positive, and what does it mean for their teammates? So say for the AFL next year, what's their policy around someone testing positive going to be? Does it mean the whole group, because they've been around the whole change rooms and playing group, have to quarantine for a certain period of time? What does that do to the fixture, or is it only their sort of direct close contacts that have to do it? So it's going to be, obviously the AFL are just, fingers crossed they get their season done. There's only one game to go. They've done an unbelievable job. But next year, to me, feels even more challenging than what this year has been, just because of the cases that's going to be right throughout the country, and players and staff and people from the AFL are all probably going to be testing positive. So it's going to be a real challenge for Gillon McLachlan and his team to come up with a policy that works.
All right, let's jump on some NBA news. And according to Adrian Wojnarowski, who I'm convinced is the best breaking sports journalist on the planet, it's just ridiculous.
Yep.
The Los Angeles Lakers have traded veteran centre Marcus Gasol and a second-round pick to the Memphis Grizzlies for draft rights to 7-foot centre Wang Zalen. Wojnarowski's report states that the Grizzlies plan to work with Gasol and a waiver and release to allow him to remain in Spain with his family. He added that the deal will save Los Angeles $10 million in cap space. Geez, the Lakers are building something pretty big and old, but big.
Very old. They're like the Geelong of the NBA.
Ooh, it's a short window, isn't it? When you're stacked like that.
Yep, it is.
Australian NFL star Jordan Mailata had a strong showing his first start since inking a lucrative multi-million-dollar contract extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jalen Hurts threw 3 touchdown passes, the first of them to Heisman Trophy winner Devonta Smith. And the Eagles made a winner of Nick Sirianni in his head coaching debut with a 32-6 rout of the hapless Falcons. The win put the Eagles atop of the NFC East Conference, and Mailata proved he was worth every cent of his new contract, showcasing his skill and devastating strength at left tackle on the offensive line. So this bloke had a bit of a background in NRL. I think he played some junior football for South Sydney. He's absolutely made it. So this isn't a Jared Haynes story. This isn't a punting story. This is a bloke who is a genuine starter playing amazing NFL football and making seriously big money. It's an amazing story.
Frightening. I just love this. The older I get, the more I love the NFL and how complicated it is, the offensive line, the defense, the way they structure up, the two sides of the two teams within a team, really. Some of these players don't ever go on the same field together. It's an unbelievable game. And to see the Aussies starting to make an impact, I mean, we have had it at kicker, as you say, for a number of years, but a big, burly rugby league player stopping these ferocious players trying to get to their quarterback is a great story. And that was Hazy Sports Update. Hyundai, forklifts, service and support that only an independent dealer can provide. If you want to jump on and get involved, the lines are available, 1300 736 736. Why would Travis Head not captain? Well, is his place in the side secure? You can't have a captain that isn't guaranteed of being in that top 6, which Travis Head hasn't had that guarantee for probably a couple of years, as much as we think he's been harshly dealt with at times. Joe Inglis will go straight past Carey. He's already taken his T20 spot. I'm not sure he will at test level. Morning, guys. I reckon the Bulldogs win because looking at Port's 2 prelim losses, the teams that they've played have gone on to win the grand final. So a bit of interesting theories coming through this morning. We will look at that all next week, build up to what's going to be an amazing grand final, albeit Port Adelaide won't be there, and who's going to win and why next week. Right now we're dealing with the fallout from the prelim finals losses. Hamish Hartlett's going to join us, Michelangelo Rucci and CJ Bruton after 8 o'clock.
All right, Footy Shorts up next. Tyre Power's big footy final sale, that's now on, and get half price off vitamins at Chemist Warehouse. 20 degrees across Adelaide today. It's going to be partly cloudy. Right now it is 7 degrees in the city.
Well, that's the thing about, that's what I like about, yeah, that's the thing about football.
It's time now for our Footy Shorts to tell you what's happening at your club and around the competition. Heaps of news filtering through yesterday. We'll start here. The aftermath of Port Adelaide's prelim final disaster has already claimed a high-profile casualty. Hamish Hartlett has been told he won't be offered a contract after over 190 games for the club. Hartlett wants to continue playing and will begin the search for a new club. It's been reported that the 22-year-old defender Joel Garner also won't be offered a new contract. Mid-season recruit Jed McEntee has been given a 1-year contract extension. Hamish Hartlett's going to join us before 8 o'clock this morning. We will find out from him about what is always a really difficult time for footballers as they contemplate life after footy or how they extend their time in the game. So if you've got a question for Hammer, let us know. 0427 154 166.
Oh, it's really good. It's a really good point. Get involved this morning on that because very, very popular member of the group, and that would have been one of the more brutal decisions that's been made at Port Adelaide over the last sort of few years. Meantime, still at Port, midfield coach Jared Schofield would depart the club to take up a more senior coaching opportunity. Schofield will be joining the West Coast Eagles on a 3-year deal, so he's going to become their senior assistant. which is good for Gerald Schofield. It means that there's a spot open up at Port Adelaide, so that's going to be interesting to see how that's filled.
Yeah, it's a big move once again. I mean, he spent so much time over there coaching in the Waffle and then got back into the AFL system, moved the family back to Adelaide. Now you go back to Perth, where he does have some roots. Of course, his son Taj will remain in Adelaide on Port Adelaide's list. So we wish Scully all the best, no doubt. We'll catch up with him very shortly on this show. The Western Bulldogs will wear their royal blue home jumper and white shorts in the 2021 Toyota AFL Grand Final against Melbourne. In a move that will prove popular with the traditionalists, the two clubs will meet in the historic September 25th decider at Perth's Optus Stadium, having obliterated their respective opponents in a one-sided prelim finals. It means Melbourne and the Bulldogs will don versions of the same uniform designs worn when they last played off for a premiership in the 1954 VFL Grand Final. Love it. Look, I don't... Do fans really care about what Guernsey they're wearing? Because Richmond wore that yellow strip, didn't they, when they won their first in 2017? I'm not sure anyone really looks back and thinks, oh, well, it doesn't mean as much because we didn't have our traditional strip. But this will look visually magnificent, and you can go back and look at the history, which these two teams have a lot of. So many older supporters that throughout a long period were starved of success. So it's going to be sensational for those Western Bulldogs and Melbourne fans, and brutal as it always is for the loser.
I actually think it makes it even more unique, because when I think of Richmond, for whatever, it's lodged in my brain, that 2017 Guernsey and the boys winning it. So just adds another little picture to a unique moment for both of these clubs. The winds of change have started blowing through Geelong, with experienced assistant coach Matthew Knights departing. Knights, who was Essendon's first coach after Kevin Sheedy, has been lured to the West Coast Eagles as well to work under Adam Simpson. The former Richmond champion has been at Geelong since 2012, where he started as the VFL coach. Knights will join the Eagles on a 3-year deal. So, geez, the Eagles are building in the coaching ranks.
Yeah, they are, and I think they needed to. We're looking ahead at those coaches that will need big seasons, and Adam Simpson is one of those. After definitely under delivering in the last couple of years with the squad that he has at the Eagles. Chris Scott's another one. Ken Hinkley, of course, will focus on heavily. But yeah, there's a couple of coaches that need big years. Fremantle assistant coach David Hale will depart the club after 6 years to take on a coaching opportunity with Hawthorn. He will join former teammate and new senior coach Sam Mitchell at the Hawks, working as an assistant. Hale joined Fremantle in 2016 following his retirement from AFL football, and most recently oversaw the club's forward line group.
Hawthorn assistant coach Brendan Bolton will depart the club, having accepted a coaching role with Collingwood. The Magpies confirmed former Lions coach and Richmond assistant Justin Lepich, as well as Bolton, had joined Collingwood as assistant coaches under McRae. Bolton has been appointed Collingwood's director of coaching, while he also works specifically with the midfield. Lepich has taken on a head of strategy position, while he'll also be the Magpies' backline coach. So there you go.
There you go. I do like what Collingwood have done. Clearly went through a really exhaustive process to get the coach. The way that they have wheeled him out to the media has been really classy, and then they support him with two assistant coaches that have coached at senior level in Lepich, who's been impressive in the media and so much success at Richmond, and Brendan Bolton, who's coached in his own right and been under that Alistair Clarkson system. So nice coaching setup for the Pies. They've done it really well. Not so Carlton. New football director Greg Williams has addressed the club's coaching search for the first time, revealing details of how the Blues are approaching the process. The club's priority targets, Clarkson, Lyon, Buckley, Brad Scott, all appear to be out of reach, leaving Don Pike, Michael Voss, Daniel Gian, Syracusa, Robert Harvey, Jamie Graham and Adam Kingsley as the main candidates. Williams says the process is different for different people, different levels of coaches, but it is a shortlist. We have picked a short list of quality coaches, and we are looking forward to the next few weeks coming up with the right person.
Geez, they're certainly drawing it out, that's for sure. Essendon has made 3 list changes, with the club parting ways with Irving Mosquito, while 2 have been delisted, Ned Cahill and Lockie Johnson. Mosquito, his management and the Bombers have agreed it's in his best interest to terminate his contract and allow him to stay home in Halls Creek, of course, recovering from an ACL injury, and he got permission to go home during that time, and he's going to stay there.
Jack McRae is sitting pretty atop the Gary Ayres medal leaderboard with just 1 week left in the final series. This is awarded to the best player of the final series. So the votes came through Port Adelaide and the Western Bulldogs, unsurprisingly, Bailey Smith and Jack McRae shared 9 each. Mitch Hannon, Marcus Bontempelli, Aaron Norton, Adam Treloar and Josh Shackey got 1 vote for his role on Aaliyah. The Melbourne game, no surprises. Max Gawn got the perfect 10 for his 5 goals in the ruck. Christian Petrarca and Christian Salem, 6 each. Oliver got 4, Viney 3 and Cosy Pickett with 1. So the leaderboard, well, the Western Bulldogs can't lose this award. Jack McRae's got 25 ahead of Bailey Smith on 17, Clayton Oliver, Petrarca and Max Gawn with 11. Jack McRae, most disposals in the history of AFL football for any one season. Phenomenal. He's the most consistent performer in the competition. Yep,
Doesn't
broke the
he
record.
Unbelievably go under the radar because of Bontempelli?
Yeah, and his ball use as well is really improved. He's got this really unique ability to look like he's kicking it long, and then he pulls it left and hits the short target, which does sort of cut open opposition defences. I mean, he's fortunate because he plays in such a strong midfield, so he is overlooked. They go to Libra and they go to Bont, and he can do whatever he wants. But he's a multiple All-Australian, and he's now a genuine star of the competition. G'day guys, any truth to the rumour North Adelaide are looking at replacing Jacob Surgeon with Josh Franco as coach next season, says Chris. I haven't heard that at all. I think Surge has done a magnificent job at North despite the finals exit over the weekend, and he's a good friend of the show. Slight upside to Port not making the granny is that I'll be a bit more inclined to crack the first beer earlier, says Lewis.
Good on you, Lewis. Good stuff. Get those texts coming through, 0427 154 166. Big show coming up. We're going to speak to, of course, Michelangelo Rucci very soon. Hamish Hartlett. So this is the first time that Hamish Hartlett is going to speak since some news yesterday that he won't be offered a new contract at Port Adelaide. We're going to do that just after 7:30. And the new Adelaide 36ers coach, CJ Bruton, we'll speak to him at just after 8 o'clock. We're doing it thanks to Tyre Power as well. The big footy final sale is now on. And don't forget, you can enter now at iCanWin.com.au for the Dakin and Climate SA Junior Footballer of the Year. It is 6:56. We're going to catch up with Alex Riddell in just a couple of minutes for the 7 o'clock news. Top of 20 across Adelaide today.
It's a very good morning to you. It is 4 minutes past 7 o'clock on what is always a magnificent Adelaide day. Hazy is at SNSA Studio Lumo, number 1 King William Street in the heart of the city with our guru producer Alicia. I'm in Perth getting ready for what I thought was going to be a Port Adelaide appearance in a grand final. Maybe I just jumped the gun a little bit early and came over here a bit sooner than what I needed to, having thought Port Adelaide were going to get through. Hazy, but it's all happening. We've got a massive show coming up. Looking forward to getting stuck into it. Michelangelo Rucci, Iron Mike's going to join us shortly. Hamish Hartlett will have a chat to us. Has been told that his time is up at Port Adelaide. We'll find out how he is feeling this morning. And the new coach for the Adelaide 36ers, I am looking forward to him. He seems like a bit of a character. He's an absolute superstar NBL basketballer and now is in charge after the shock exit of Connor Henry. You got a question for any of those guests? You can also jump on and send us a text, 0427 154 166. Andrew Hayes is in fine form this morning, absolutely fine form, the 4-time premiership superstar from the Central Districts Football Club. Hazy, good morning.
Thanks, Kane. That's very lovely of you. Get involved this morning, 0427 154 166. Yesterday, the first round of exit meetings started for Port Adelaide and the exodus of the club, and a few little things to talk about, including Joel Garner, the 22-year-old. He won't be offered a new contract for next season. Boyd Woodcock will probably have to wait until the trade period to see what happens with his future. Jed McEntee gets a new 1-year deal. Of course, he's the mid-season rookie pickup. Big one, though, is the vice-captain, Hamish Hartlett. After over 190 games, won't be at Alberton next season. That would have been an absolute heartbreaking decision and a tough decision for those in charge.
It would have been, because halfway through the year, when he was just, he struggled all year really with getting his body up. But halfway through the year, I vividly remember, Ken Hinckley speaking about Hamish's future, and he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he, paraphrasing here, but he used the words to the effect of, we'll look after Hamish, like he's been such a great leader and important player for our footy club. We'll make sure that we look after him, and I just took that as absolutely they'll give him another 1-year contract. Since those comments have been made, he's just really struggled to get himself prepared to play AFL football. So you look at his numbers in the sample, and every week he put up good numbers, but if you dive into it a little bit deeper and you listen to Hamish's regular media comments he just hasn't been confident in his body, which has let him down throughout basically the majority of his career. So this one isn't about his ability. It's they would love to keep him around. I think this one is just genuinely about his body and the concerns of the club that it's not going to be ready, and he's just not going to be able to perform at the level that he has when he has been fit. So we'll speak to him about that and how confident he is in his body, because he's still only 31, Hazy, and we've seen players of a similar ilk. I mean, Grant Birchall is an excellent example of this, and his body for 2 years before he left to go to Brisbane at Hawthorn was continually letting him down. He went up to Brizzy and had 2 really good seasons playing across half-back. The thing that's in Hamish's favour is he can play multiple positions, and his leadership. Like, he's an outstanding leader. Like, Hamish is one of the better leaders that I've played with and that I've seen. So for a club like, even a club like Brisbane, who's looking to be in that window, Birchall retires, you upgrade to a younger version of Grant Birchall, Hamish Hartlett across half-back, deadly with his ball use. Definitely there'll be some clubs interested. It's just whether he believes, and we'll speak to him and ask him that, whether he believes that his body can hold up for at least another 12 or perhaps 24 months.
Gee, it's a brutal decision, isn't it? And this is just, for a lot of players, it's just an awful time of the year. And like you mentioned, from what we hear, from what we see from other players, I've never spoken or heard from anyone involved in the Port Adelaide Football Club that doesn't rate Hamish Hartlett on the absolute top shelf in terms of the way that he is around the club, the way that he is with the younger players, the way that he handles himself. So you just can't imagine that there's not another club out there, a developing club, that wouldn't love to have someone like that. And who knows, Grant Birchall, he just absolutely kicked into another gear. Isn't it amazing how some of these players, different club, different environment, and all of a sudden the body responds, or they get a new lease of life, maybe to an extra couple of years on their body. And that could be a Hamish Hartlett.
Yeah, it could be, and let us know, Port fans, how you're feeling. 0427 154 or send us a tribute for Hamish and what your memories are of him. So the other issue is just how stacked they are across half back, and if they're looking to bring in a player like Jordan Dawson, then that the older ones at times that have had issues do get squeezed out. You've got Bonner, who I think is another really important player for them in terms of what they do, because Riley Bonner plays across half-back, of course, 32 disposals in that prelim final, was one of a couple only winners on Saturday night, will attract interest from other clubs. So anyone that's got penetration, is a good ball user and can run and carry across half-back and is in the age bracket of Riley Bonner will attract interest. So we're hearing that he is weighing up his future. I'm sure Port Adelaide would love to keep him, but don't be surprised if he opts for greater opportunity and greater security at another club. So those list decisions will be made. We're hearing, as you said, Hazy, that Stephen Motlop, they have agreed to another 1-year contract, or they want him to go on again. So that's also an interesting one as well. It's hard not to overreact to the performances from a couple of players on Saturday night. You've got to take the full amount of data into context, and throughout the majority of the year, Stephen Motlop has played a reasonably important role, so unsurprised that he'll go on. And Robbie Gray, we know that they've committed to him. It's just how they probably manage Robbie next year. Is it 12 to 15 games? Does he play a bit more forward? But Robbie Gray, the little champ, will go on as well. But also dealing with the fallout from a coaching position as well, with a couple of coaches, one gone in Jared Schofield joining the Eagles, and Michael Voss weighing up what he wants to do. Spoke to him yesterday about him going for another senior opportunity at Carlton.
Pudge from Kiama texted in on 0427 154 166. He said we needed 22 Hamish Hartletts on Saturday. I suppose at the end of it as well, what you knew that you were going to get with Hamish Hartlett is 1,000% effort, and he was always going to leave everything out on the pitch, which was very admirable. Looking forward to speaking to him. We're going to do that just after 7:30. You mentioned Jared Schofield. He's off to the Eagles. In terms of someone else that you would like to see Port potentially speak to or poach, I mean, is there someone else there? Josh Franco is a name. Adam Kingsley maybe?
Yeah, there's some quality out there. So these assistant coaches are all sort of told about their futures late August. So the club would be aware via assistant coaches, managers about who perhaps is looking for different opportunities, or if a new coach comes in, like say at Collingwood, the shuffle and the fallout that happens from there. One I wouldn't mind them having a look at, and it's going back to the future a little bit, but I'd be just reaching out to Gary Hocking and just seeing what Buddha's up to, because he fell out of the Collingwood structure with the COVID situation. He's well known to those at Port Adelaide. He's highly respected. He's the hardest working assistant coach I've ever seen, and he got really close to the Adelaide job as well before Matthew Nicks. Like he was right into that job. I'll just have a chat to Buddha and say, look, how are you feeling? Are you refreshed from having some time out of the game? Clearly he knows the midfield better than anyone. He's got a really good relationship with Ken Hinkley. Maybe they want fresh ideas, but I'd just be reaching out to Gary Hocking. I've often wondered, whether he would be lost to the game, and whether he would be one that I would have a chat to. There's the obvious names that Josh. I wouldn't have a chat to Josh Franco. I just think with the way that he's broken a couple of contracts at Adelaide and then at Gold Coast, probably move in a different direction from Josh Franco. But Adams Kingsley's name's come up, but I think he's pretty settled in Victoria. So I'm not exactly sure who's available and who's gettable, but one I'd have a chat to is Gary Hocking, and perhaps someone like a Brenton Sanderson who knows the Adelaide landscape very well and may sort of get moved to a different role in the shuffle at Collingwood, so maybe open to greater opportunities. 0427 154 166. The Ken Hinkley situation is really fascinating for me, Hazy, because we get a lot of feedback. Port fans are probably, what would you say, the overwhelming majority are starting to question whether Kenny will take them to a premiership, and it's just a brutal game. So in American sport, right, coaches are celebrated for having a winning season. So if you're an NFL team and there's 17 games in a season and you go 9-8, most supporter bases go, okay, that's a good job by the coach. But unfortunately in AFL footy, it's win or not. And there's only the one coach that is celebrated and lauded. And if you've been at a club for a certain amount of time and you've got a list that has the talent and the experience and the demographic to win a premiership, and you don't deliver that on high expectations, the pressure starts to come. What happens next year with Kenny? Look, absolutely he goes again, and he deserves the right to go again next year. But what's an early pass mark for Ken Hazy to the point where he will be guaranteed longer term at Port Adelaide? It's a grand final, isn't it? Like, as brutal and as harsh as that is, it's really probably the only outcome that guarantees his future beyond next year. I don't know, Port fans. 0427 154 166. It's a more tricky situation that I've seen. But how do you see it? Is that the early really harsh pass mark for Ken Hinkley next year?
Gee, it's a great question for the Port Adelaide supporters on 0427 154 166, because the mantra has always been we exist to win premierships. And I suppose it's probably now in the bracket where last couple of years they've got the cattle to do it. So I would have thought that is the benchmark for Port supporters. And you've said before that a benchmark is making a grand final. I still think making a grand final is a massive achievement. But that would be interesting to see how that would sit with Port supporters. If you could say, here's the blueprint, let's predict next year. How would it sit with you if Port made the grand final but they didn't quite get over the line? Would that still have people after Ken Hinkley? Because this was always coming. Whenever Port lost, that's the first thing you think. And this is probably the brutal thing about being a coach in this particular code, is that whenever they lose, whichever team it is, the first person to get questioned is the coach. And that's a bracket that Ken Hinkley is in. I think that if they made a grand final next year, and if they didn't win but it was close, I mean, that's a good effort, and that's a pass mark for me. If it was a 120-point blowout, that's a different story.
Yeah, same here. Like, it's very, very similar to the Chris Scott situation. I mean, Chris Scott's home and away record is the best of any of the active coaches. The thing that he's got in his favour is that premiership. That's 10 years ago now, and some would say that he inherited that premiership, but he's got the club to compete, but he made the grand final last year, and Ken hasn't been able to jump that hoop. So look, it's tough to be a Port Adelaide coach, and we can ask Michelangelo Rucci because he followed the Mark Williams situation so closely when he was the chief footy writer at the Advertiser, and it's to the point sometimes at Port Adelaide where the supporters can almost drive the coach out. So once you lose the supporters, there's something unique about the Port Adelaide Football Club that dates back hundreds of years, and Port fans, please jump on and have your say about it. Once the coach loses that Port Adelaide army, it doesn't often end well after that. I don't know if Ken has lost the supporters. All we can go off is the feedback that we get, and it's incredibly harsh because for the most part he's done an incredible job this year. But I just wonder what happens next year and the pressure that he will enter next season under, and it's going to take some strong leadership from Koshy and Matthew Richardson to guarantee Ken Hinkley that he's the guy until at least the end of his contract, which expires at the end of 2023. Jordan Dawson is in quarantine, Hazy, after returning from Victoria, and is expected to make a call on his preferred club. So which way do you see this going? We did hear some early reports about that he may choose Port Adelaide. That was before Saturday night's calamity, but is that the desired outcome and desired home for Jordan Dawson, do you think?
The half reports are that there could be some more coin at Adelaide Crows, but
Yep.
obviously Port Adelaide, given the position of both clubs, is a better destination club. The other thing that we're hearing as well, which I think was reported last night on Channel 7, is that he'll make a decision by the end of the week. So he's currently quarantining on the way back from Melbourne. Didn't go to the best and fairest a couple of weeks ago. So a big decision looms. This is an interesting text as well. Boys, is Jordan Dawson this year's Dougal Howard in the trade period? He's gone from a good player to a superstar in 2 weeks.
Well, I think he has massive upside. Like, he finished third in Sydney's best and fairest, and they're a finals team. And his back half of the year where he played more wing forward, centre forward, was... He played incredible footy, so I think he's a very, very good player and would be a welcome addition to either side. 1300 736 736. Ask the question, Port fans, about Ken Hinkley. George is on the line. He wants to have his say. G'day, George.
Yeah, g'day, guys. How you going?
Good.
How are we all?
Good, thank you, mate.
We're good. How are you? Are you commiserating yourself after the loss? Are you a big Port fan? Take us through the emotions of the last couple of days and how you see the future of Ken Hinkley.
Been a 40-year member, and at the end of the day, Ken Hinkley, when he came to the club, kudos to him. He resurrected we were dead and buried. He resurrected us, no doubt about that. He was great for the first few years. But you're talking about a guy who's going to enter his 10th year, who's probably rejuvenated that list 4 or 5 times. He's had more assistant coaches than what any other coach I can think of. Everything's ever wanted he's received from the club. He's taken us as far as he possibly can. It's time for him to do the honourable thing and just walk away. And after the Geelong game 2 weeks ago, please, why don't you just go back to his press conference? He had a slight dig at all the haters and detractors after beating Geelong. Mate, the job was not even done, and you're already gloating about winning one game of qualifying final. From that moment on, we already lost the game, the preliminary final, because he was so cocky after beating one team, the qualifying final. I'm done with it, I'll be honest. I won't be renewing my memberships next year. I'll still support the club like I always do in terms of, I'll buy my tickets from Ticketek, and the club will get a small percentage, but I will not be spending $1,000 on my whole family again becoming members when the club's got to start listening to its own supporters, because 70% of supporters do not want Ken Hinkley coaching there anymore. We've lost Jared Schofield now because of him.
George, so from the supporters that you and look, that's the feedback that we get. The supporters that you interact with, that you go to the footy with, that you're mates with, is that their view as well?
Yeah, none of us are re-signing next year. We've already sent letters to the club. When none of us are re-signing, you're talking about Kane. I was a guy. I'm one of these crazy guys. That, remember, I think it would have been 2002, 2003 when I went to Brisbane for the qualifying final to watch us play. When we got smacked by Brisbane, I've gone to Perth to watch us play. I've gone to Tasmania to watch us play. I spend my hard-earned dosh. I'm not saying that I'm anyone special within the club, but I think we should have a voice, and I'm not alone on this, Kane.
Yeah, no, you're not. George, you're not. Absolutely. I appreciate your passion. The club needs supporters like you, and they absolutely appreciate you. But that is some of the feedback getting through. Look, he's not going to walk away. He's got 2 years of a contract that would be worth, I don't know, $1.4 million. So you wouldn't expect anyone in his circumstance to walk away. But this is the challenge that he's going to face. And can he be the coach that gets the club to the next hurdle? 1300 736 736. Do you agree with George, Port fans? You can jump on and join in the conversation with us.
All right, let's get around Mazda as well. The Mazda Moment mid-season event is on at Tyre Power's big footy final sale. That's on now as well. Michelangelo Rucci next. Partly cloudy across Adelaide today for a top of 17. Right now it is 5 degrees in the city. Good morning.
Party people! Rooch, here he is. Rooch, here he is. Hey! Rooch, shakalaka, shakalaka, shakalaka. Rooch.
He's had a big year, as always. Keep part of what we do here, right here on 1629 SENSA, 3:30 to 5:30 this afternoon with Kim Dillon. All thanks to Powers, Parafield Airport Liquor Store. Michelangelo Rucci is his name. Rucci, good morning.
Good morning, Kane. Good morning, Andrew.
When the Port Adelaide supporters are off the coach, which I think you would agree certainly a majority seem to be, what happens to the club from you following them from a long, long time? Now, this is an old school footy club, Rucci, as you know. Does that influence any of the decisions, or how much of the decisions does it influence?
Well, that would be the test of what Port Adelaide's all about at the moment, but it's no different to where they are in 2003, where probably the most influential supporter was Alan Scott. Now, when Alan Scott said Port Adelaide will never win a premiership under Mark Williams, well, Port Adelaide knew differently, and they knew wisely that if they maintained their support of Mark Williams and continued to work on a program that was going to deliver a premiership, they would win a premiership. Now, I can understand the frustration of the Port Adelaide supporters, but if the football club starts making decisions based on the emotions of frustrated and annoyed supporters, they'll go nowhere. I mean, what would have Collingwood done after it lost 2 consecutive grand finals under Michael Malthouse? Michael Malthouse took 11 years to deliver the much-wanted flag at Collingwood. 11 years. Lost 2 grand finals. Had to dip down to a rebuild halfway through the program. So good football clubs know what their program is about, and as has been the line at Geelong when they were in trouble before 2007, stay the course. Now, what were those Port Adelaide fans saying 2 weeks ago, that the ones who are now very vocal? They weren't shooting Ken Hinkley then. If they were so smart about coaching, why weren't they calling for his sacking 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think the information, that like one game changes a lot, and it's more the performance. Like not one person saw that performance coming. Like everything absolutely all lining up for Port Adelaide, the opportunity that they had, like the benefits that Port Adelaide had that all the other finals teams didn't have. We know that. And then more about the way that they performed. I can absolutely understand the frustration. But equally, you make a good point. It's just whether the club can be strong enough in their convictions, if they think Ken is the right one, to stand by him and perhaps just ignore the noise from the supporters, which is difficult. So as we come into next year, how do you foresee the pressure that will be on the coach and what he will need to deliver to make sure the club continues to be strong? It's almost impossible to say that a coach has got to make a grand final to keep his job, but it's almost the situation that he's in.
Well, there's been many coaches who've gone through that. You know, they have that label on it. And usually it's not about a premiership or a grand final. Sometimes it can be, they've got to make the finals or he'll lose his job. Now, again, it comes down to what we've seen in the past 20 years is the very good football clubs stay the course, stay strong to their program, and they actually achieve success. That's Geelong, that's Collingwood, that's Richmond. That's even Hawthorn, when Jeff Kennett used to go silly about Alistair Clarkson because he'd lose a round 1 game. They stay the course, they stay strong in their program, they believe in what it is, they work hard, they get better, they win premierships. Now, that's for all the wonderful people who have all this great insight at the moment. If they thought things were really bad at Port Adelaide 2 weeks ago, why were they all of a sudden lining up to buy grand final tickets? They obviously had some belief 2 weeks ago. What happened on Saturday night doesn't fall solely on the shoulders of the coach. There are a heap of people who have to answer for what happened on Saturday night. And there's a long list of players who were underperforming. They're the ones probably who have to answer more than what Ken Hinkley does.
Rooch, which side of Port Road do you think Jordan Dawson lands at?
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because who can make the best sales pitch, who can offer the most, and what does he really want? Now, probably early on we thought that Adelaide was probably going to be his landing spot, but it seems to have changed to Port Adelaide, and we've seen what Port Adelaide have been able to do in recent times where they've made themselves a destination club. But I'm not sure where Jordan's thinking his future is. So until that's answered, I'm not sure. I'd be guessing like everyone else.
We'll wait and see. Going to be a really interesting time for both clubs. Both clubs, I think, desperately would want him. Rooch, looking forward to you joining us this afternoon from 3:30. The final specials now available at Powers, Parafield Airport Liquor Store. Discover something different. And Hazy, as I always tell you, drink responsibly.
You do say that a lot. It feels good to be able to throw it back at you, Kane. For goodness sake, after last night's effort, you need to start drinking responsibly. How does that feel?
Shenanigans last night.
Absolute shenanigans. You're out of control. 0427 154 166. That's a text line. Get involved this morning. Hamish Hartlett, Port Adelaide vice captain, over 190 games, told he won't be offered a new contract for next season. We're going to speak to him in just a few minutes' time. So keep it locked to 1629 SEN SA. Before that, let's get all the news headlines with Alex Riddell. It's the text line this morning, busy. 0427 154 166. Keep them coming through. And Kane 1300 736 736. A good chance for Port Adelaide supporters to get involved on the phone line before 8:30.
Which they are doing in their numbers. We'll get to all your text messages shortly, but Ange has given us a buzz. He's in Croydon. He wants to respond to Michelangelo's comments. G'day, Ange.
Good morning, boys. I was walking down the River Torrens at the moment. I nearly fell over listening to Rucci's comments. What a cop-out that was. An absolute cop-out. That was a bigger cop-out than Ken Hinkley's not wanting to answer certain questions on Saturday night after the loss. How can he compare Mick Malthouse with Ken Hinkley? Malthouse has won 2 premierships with the West Coast before he won the flag with Collingwood. And as for people buying grand final tickets or lining up for tickets, that's because they love their club, Kane, Hazy. They love their club. They don't need to love the coach, right? So if the club's going in that direction where they've happened to fall into a prelim final, well, you know what? Why can't they go buy grand final tickets? And someone like me, I wished I could have said, gee, I was wrong about Ken Hinkley. I wished I could have said that. So, you know, what a cop-out from Michelangelo Rucci. Honestly, I love what he does. I love his work. But it's really disappointing with those comments.
Thank you to you, Ange. A lot of text coming through, Hazy. I'm not even a Port supporter, but my mates that don't care about 2 weeks ago, they wanted Ken out. Guys, please, the constant comparisons to failures of 2001, 2 and 3 being somehow vindicated by the win in 04 confuse me. When did that become acceptable? We should have won a minimum of 2, if not 3, in that time. This is no different. We have wasted 2 years. A win next year won't justify the last 10. Says Matt, AFL is cutthroat. You need to adjust, put your tissues and dummies away. A lot of Port fans need to mature. Ken got the list with midfield holes about as high as it could go, says Ricky G in Cairns. Hi fellas, I'm disgusted how our so-called supporters could diss on Kenny and the players. Yes, the prelim was damn hard to watch, but was so embarrassed to observe the behaviour of some of our so-called supporters. If you're not prepared to support your club through the good and the bad, then find another club to support, says Daz in Woodcroft. Good on to you, Daz. Shane from Queensland. Love Rooch's contribution. Balance, factual, and keep your eyes on the prize. There are a lot of silent Port fans backing the club direction, even though we are hurting, says Shano. Lots of text coming through, very differing views, Hazy. As you can imagine, it's sport, it's emotional, it's an emotional time, and we'll give you your platform to have your say. You can get involved whenever you like.
Okay, we're going to speak to Hamish Hartlett next, the vice-captain of Port Adelaide Football Club. Told yesterday that he won't be given a contract for next season. So you got to play some football with Hartlett. I've only heard amazing things about him in terms of his character, etc. Give us an insight into your time with him and what he's actually like.
Well, he's a phenomenal leader from the minute that he came in. The thing that I always admired about him was his ability to overcome adversity. He never got too down on himself. Like, he had repeated soft tissue injuries early days. I remember we were just doing a sort of a walkthrough drill one day. It was just very low key, very low intensity, and he hurt his hammy doing that. And I thought, geez, it was a really nasty hammy. But he always bounced back. He always had a smile on his face. The thing that I admired most about him, though, was his courage. Like, he's just one of the toughest and hardest and most ruthless footballers that I've ever played with. So often to his detriment by putting himself in positions that other footballers wouldn't. So he's carried himself with absolute class. Great person from an amazing family. So looking forward to chatting to him. Next, just some breaking news. Hazy St Kilda coach Brett Ratton confirmed on SEN Melbourne Breakfast that Jack Billings has signed a new 4-year deal to stay with the Saints. So the trade period is getting thinner and thinner by the day. Some Port fans wanted Port to have a look at Jack Billings, but he has signed on for 4 years at the Saints.
It's looking good for Jordan Dawson, isn't it? Because like we always mention, there's one or two players that sometimes, because they're at the top of the list, get paid absolutely handsomely. And right now, he's sitting in a very nice position. 0427 154 166. Keep it locked because Hamish Hartlett, we're going to speak to him in just a couple of minutes' time. It is 7:40, top of 17 degrees across Adelaide today. Right now, 6 degrees in the city. We're doing it thanks to Tyre Power's Big Footy Final Sale that is on right now. And the Mazda Moment mid-season event is also on. Good morning.
15 minutes to 8 o'clock, 1300 736 736 if you want to join in the conversation with us this morning. But a special guest has been good enough to join us this morning. Port Adelaide's Hamish Hartlett. Hammer, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Wig, Hazy. Thanks, fellas.
Is this it, Hammer? Have you been told that your time at Port Adelaide is up?
Look, essentially, had a chat with Kenny and Chris Davies yesterday, and Kenny pretty much just said that there won't be a contract there for you next season. For a couple of reasons. One, that physically doesn't feel like I can keep up with the demands of the game, particularly in the position that I play across half back, playing against some players that are quite lively. He just doesn't feel like I can keep up with those types of players anymore. And then also with the development, I suppose, of some of our younger guys that we've got coming through, which has been quite exceptional the last 2 or 3 years. It just doesn't feel like that there's a position on the list for me anymore. Did
you agree or disagree with those two aspects as to why you weren't offered a contract?
No, look, I didn't necessarily agree with them, but I can understand, the angle that they're coming from. In terms of my body, clearly, particularly in the back half of the year, I had some issues. I had this little quad issue that really popped up out of nowhere at a training session one day, and not that it was significant, but certainly hampered the way I could train and play. But through the advice of the footy club, and I guess my own desperation to keep trying to play, I was keen to keep playing throughout that little issue, but that sort of never got better. And then I hurt my knee over in Melbourne doing some extras with some of the young fellas, trying to help them out a bit. And then Durs collided into my knee, and all of a sudden needed a little scope on that. So back half of the year was no good, and I think it probably all stemmed really off a knee operation that I had at the end of last season, which was quite significant and really delayed my start to pre-season, and then you'd be sort of playing chase up from there. So, not ideal this year, but I still firmly believe within myself that I'm capable of playing some good AFL footy.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Was it out of the blue, Hammer? Because for the majority of the year, the commentary was really supportive, certainly from Ken, and said that there wasn't really any signs that this would be the case. So were you surprised by the call in the end?
Not entirely surprised, Kane. I wouldn't say. Pretty much the discussions between the club and Michael Dowdy, my manager, throughout particularly the back half of the season was, let's just sort of wait and see how he's playing and what his form's like, and then we'll come to have some discussions by the end of the season. As I've just mentioned, the back half of my year didn't go to plan. I got a call from Kenny on Sunday afternoon saying that he wanted me to come in and have a chat, and it was sort of well before my exit meeting time had been scheduled for. So I suppose when you receive that call, it's the writing's on the wall to some degree.
You've had a sleep, whether you slept well or not really sure, but how are you feeling from yesterday versus this morning? What are you going through?
Well, I'm feeling significantly less hungover this morning than I did yesterday morning, so that's a good start. Look, I had a really good sleep last night, and yesterday I think certainly a bit anxious, I guess, about the unknown of what the future might hold over the next little period, and so there's some I guess minor anxieties around those types of things, but wake up this morning and just have received the most incredible amount of support from everyone, players, coaches, supporters that have hit me up on social media, these types of things. All their messages have been read, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So certainly waking up this morning with a larger sense of optimism about where things are at, and I guess some opportunities hopefully that might arise going forward. So I've still got some discussions to have with Michael Dowdy, my manager, about where things are at, and we'll test the waters elsewhere, and hopefully an opportunity can arise.
What does the next couple of weeks look like? I mean, do you jump straight into that straight away, or do you let the dust settle, or what does the program look like?
That's a good call. I think I'll catch up with Michael today, and we'll sort of really discuss hopefully some serious options about what's out there, and then I'll still take some time to relax from what's been a pretty draining season, both mentally and physically. So I think it's still plan to go away with a few of the boys, hopefully over to Barnbugle, play a bit of golf for a few days over there, which would be nice, and attend the best and fairest and do all those types of things. But then Michael and I will stay in discussion about where things are at, and hopefully we can sort something out within the coming weeks, if not months.
Yeah, we're hopeful of that as well. I guess the role that's perfectly suited for you is that leadership role across half-back. You can play multiple positions, but we saw, we spoke this morning about Grant Birchall, and he had his issues with his body, but was able to get himself up to play a couple of good seasons of really good footy. And you're young enough, Hammer. Are you prepared to go anywhere to continue your AFL career and move into state?
Yeah, and I think that's a role I sort of see myself in, Kane, and definitely as my career has gone on, I've really enjoyed mentoring some things and helping guys get better. I've seen Riley and Miles and Ryan Burton, Husto, these guys that I've sort of worked with over the last 4 or 5 years just become really good players, and it makes me very, very proud to say that I've been able to contribute in some way to helping them become the players that they are. So that's certainly the role that I'd love to take up, in a playing capacity as well. I think at this stage in my life, I'm more than happy to explore any option. I think a few years ago when there was a bit of stuff going on about the trade and potentially going to state, I don't think mentally I was mature enough to have gone through that process. But I feel like now I'm more than open for the challenge, and happy to explore that wherever it might take me.
What about if it took you to the Crows and Matthew Nicks and your relationship there? Would you consider that?
Yeah, it's funny. I got a message from my old housemate, Billy Frampton, who said, "What about my Crowies next year?" I know a few of my very good mates from school would be absolutely ecstatic if that was to be the case. But I'd have to really think long and hard about that one, Kane. Really think very, very long and hard about that one. Nixie's a good man. I've got Timmy Parham. One of the physios over there is an exceptional person as well, and so there are some relationships there, mate. But what do you reckon? What do you reckon, Kane? Do you reckon I'd be able to handle that sort of heat, that sort of pressure, or what?
No, I think you could. And they do need some experience and a bigger body and some leadership. They've lost a lot. It would be hard to see it though, Hammer. I must admit, it'd be hard to see you in a Crows Guernsey. I must admit. What did you make of Saturday night? I mean, you would have watched on, and you probably were in as much shock as everyone else.
Yeah, it was interesting. We set up in the media centre, and the emergency voice, so Lino, Maisie and Tommy Cleary came up, and I sort of said, I asked them how the boys feeling, they're up and about, and Lino said, mate, the feeling and the energy in the room before the game was as good as he's ever felt. Like it was, he said the boys were absolutely buzzing, so I don't think anything in terms of their preparation can be blamed, but, the doggies, they outworked us. They had far better shape around each contest. It felt like every long ball that we tried to kick to a contest was just swooped up on by the ground level players from the doggies. They were super clean, and they really did put on an absolute show around the contest. I think we were minus 30 or something in contested possession, which, as you know, Kane, is just a huge number. And unfortunately, the 4 or 5 games that we've lost significantly this year, it's followed a similar trend in that regard. So, the guys were shouted after the game that they dished up that type of performance in such a big game for the footy club. But what can you do but pick yourself up and have another crack again next year?
So is it something? I mean, it's clearly not an easy fix, but is there something that what would they have done differently had they got a rematch this weekend? Because, as you know, with supporters, they don't stomach too well the excuse of, they just had a bad night when the Bulldogs had an exceptional night.
Yeah. Look, I think what I just touched on, so just creating a more balanced shape around each contest. I felt like on the weekend there are a few too many occasions where we might have had 2 or 3 guys right in at the coalface and not enough sort of outside coverage, if that makes any sense. So the Bulldogs just always seem to have Libber or McRae or someone right there with their hands on the footy, and then so clean, and just be able to have that 360-degree coverage around the contest for them to be able to feed the ball out to the outside and then use their leg skills going forward. So that's something that we'd certainly try harder at fixing next time for sure.
So just listening to you there as well, we know that you've been sort of dipping your toe in with a few amateur clubs. Clearly coaching something that you'd be looking at in the future as well. Yeah, no doubt. I think I still want to stay involved in the game in some capacity. I feel like I can still play for another year or two, however long that may be. But as I mentioned, that mentoring, coaching type aspect of the game is something I've really taken a liking to, and I feel like I'm knowledgeable enough to jump into some sort of coaching role beyond that as well. So, again, they're discussions that I'll have with Dogger and hopefully some other clubs that might be interested. But I love the game. I don't think I'll be lost to it for too long. And coaching is certainly something that I'm very, very interested in.
You clearly leave on basically about as good a terms as we've seen anyone. Like, even the fact that you fronted up with us here this morning is a credit to you. You said you're going to the best and fairest. You debated the decision with Ken, but do you leave with any bad blood, Hammer? Like, what's your overriding emotion directed towards the footy club?
No, even when Kenny and Chris broke the news to me immediately, I said, look, boys, as disappointed, as flat as I am about it, and as much as I might disagree with it, I said I'm not going to kick up a stink about it. It's not the way I've been raised. I owe the footy club a lot. They've been unbelievable to me for 13 years. They've given me this incredible opportunity of, build a great life around that. I've got some, incredible friends there that I'm lucky enough to call lifelong friends. We'll absolutely be keeping in touch beyond this year, and Unfortunately, there's not too many players that really get to leave on their own terms. I've fallen victim to that, I guess, this year. It happens every year to lots of people. So, what do? You just get on with things. So, no bad blood, mate. I've got nothing but love for that footy club, and that will always be the case.
Hey, Hammer, for what it's worth as well, the number 8 has just opened up at the Crows with Jake Kelly going across to Essendon.
There you go.
There you go. It's falling in quite nicely. Mate, if we think that you're going to go somewhere else and we think that you need to still be in the system, but looking forward, if that doesn't happen, could you see yourself still trying to play at the highest level, a la playing in the sample?
Yeah, potentially. There's an option there as well. Adam, my brother's assistant coaching at West Adelaide, and that was the club that got me to where I am, I guess, in a lot of ways. So there's been some very preliminary, I guess, discussions with the Westies about where things might land for me at the end of this year, and I think there might be an opportunity there. I think I'd like to still test myself against some really good players, and I'm a competitive person as it is, so test myself against the rest, and give it a red hot crack wherever that might be.
What was the highlight at Port Adelaide for you?
Well, the last couple of years, albeit they've been challenging from an off-field point of view with all the COVID stuff. They've been some of my favourite years, I reckon. Just with the group of guys that we've got at the moment, we've really built hard, as everyone's known about, working on our connection with each other and becoming a real sort of brotherhood, I guess, down there. And that's something that I've really, really loved being a part of. So, the last couple of years have been outstanding. And we've obviously won far more games than we've lost. So, that's probably the highlight moments, I reckon.
Well, mate, it's been phenomenal. Not too many more popular players have walked through those doors at Alberton than yourself. You're a credit to Carol and Graham and your family. Such a close, tight-knit family who have also been incredibly important in the history of the Port Adelaide Footy Club. So congratulations on a phenomenal career. We're barracking for you, Hammer. We assume you'll get another opportunity. I hope that happens, and hope to see you in the AFL, and we'll catch up then. But enjoy a little break, and for whatever's next, we wish you all the best.
No, thanks, fellas, and thanks for your support over the last few years as well. And we'll have a chat to you again soon. Hopefully it's, again at an AFL club somewhere else. But it's been good, boys, so I appreciate it.
Good on you. Hamish Hartlett there. Hazy, 190-odd games at Port Adelaide. Told yesterday by the coach and the footy manager, Chris Davies, that they didn't have the confidence in his body to go ahead, and also that the young group coming back, they're going to prioritise that. Obviously disappointed with the news, but doesn't leave with any bad blood whatsoever. It's absolute class. He's going to look and speak to his manager, Michael Dowdy from TLA, about what is next and whether there's more opportunities at another club. He's willing to go into state, but it doesn't get much more classy than that, I reckon, for a player to be able to handle really difficult news and to front up and share that experience with us and the Port Adelaide fans and the wider AFL community.
So we get to deal with Hamish through Channel 7. So we get to speak to him once a week, and you couldn't get hold of someone who's more accessible, who's more professional, and someone who's in his position was down to earth. It was, along with Ollie Wines, who we speak to as well. They're two really, really just good people. So Port Adelaide for the last 13 years has been very lucky to have Hamish Hartlett.
Absolutely. Incredible leader, wants to continue. Hopefully he gets that opportunity. Would even maybe somewhat consider a look at the Crows. I don't know about that. We'll wait and see. Port fans, anyone wants to jump on. Where does he suit? Which club does he suit? 0427 154 166. Still got a big morning coming up through until 8:30. The new coach of the Adelaide 36ers, CJ Bruton's going to join us after 8.
All right, we'll do it as well. Thanks to Mazda, The Mazda Moment mid-season event is on. Partly cloudy across Adelaide today for a top of 17. The news up in just a few moments. Good morning.
Yeah, it's a very good morning to you. If you're just joining us, we spoke to Michelangelo Rucci, who backed in the coach Ken Hinkley, who took a lot of your calls and a lot of your texts. And moments ago, Port Adelaide Vice-Captain Hamish Hartlett has been informed and revealed to us yesterday. He was told by Ken Hinkley and the footy boss Chris Davies that his time at the club had come to an end. We'll take your calls through until 8:30, but right now it's time for our next guest. He's the new coach of our Adelaide 36ers. CJ Bruton is his name. CJ, thanks for your time and congratulations.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I appreciate it. I'm super excited, as you already know, of being the Adelaide 36ers head coach.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's somewhat surprising for us. Like we sort of dealt with Connor Henry, and we were impressed with him, and we didn't see this announcement coming. Were you shocked when you first heard the news that the Sixers were moving on from their current coach?
I was. I think the timing of it and how it happened. I think knowing that our season was around the corner, but in sport and life, there's always challenges and things that come up that, as an organisation and a club, and even as families, that we have to deal with. So, not fully understanding or knowing what had happened, you have to stay in your lane.
CJ, so how long was the process from when they got in contact with you to when you became the coach?
I think probably 2 weeks. I think,
wow.
or just around. I think JVG and Grant did a good job of keeping it quiet and just having conversations and dialogue along the way, and seeing if we could make this work. Clearly, they laid out their vision of where they see the club and what how they've been building this process along the way, and trying to achieve so much, not only on the floor but off court. And through the pandemic, it's obviously put some roadblocks in the way, but they felt like I was the man for the job, and they came to me and showed me how they thought this could play out. And the more that they talked about it, the more I was getting excited. And you don't want to jump the gun, but it was. I feel like it's a great marriage.
What is your vision, mate? You've seen the roster now. What do you think that this squad's capable of doing?
Clearly winning the title. You can't go somewhere without thinking that you can straight away off the bat be successful, make the playoffs, have a chance to win the championship. You know sports. You talk about it all the time, and you know the process and the lay of the land. It's not an easy challenge. Everyone wants to so that they have a chance to do the same thing. And I feel like with the pieces that JVG and Grant were able to put together to this point, is exciting. It's exciting for Adelaide. I think where they're at, where they've been at, to be able to grow from that and continue to improve. I feel like I can add not only on court but off the court as well.
Mate, no one knows.
CJ, sorry, Hazy. Are you concerned about the drama that the club's been through? It's been a couple of coaches in a short period of time. Does that worry you at all, and the instability of the group, perhaps how they're going psychologically?
No, like I said, you've seen a whole lot of sporting clubs, and I guess I've grown up in sport my whole life, and from my father travelling all over the country and the different situations and circumstances that come up throughout sports. Some of it's not pretty, but we have to live through it and understand. For me, coming in, seeing that this process it's taken its toll, and I get it. The fans see it they see it as it's a soap opera as it unfolds. But overall, this family, this organisation has the foundation there that is super strong. The loyalty from the fans that are committed to this club, to the players that have been recruited here, and it's the now. So I don't think about the past, and I'll include the past and the players, but as of right now, it's about the moment of us continuing to build, to continue to move forward.
Mate, what do you take when you look back at your time with the Bullets?
The growth, there's a lot of little wins along the way. When you start with a franchise from the jump, you learn how to appreciate not only the person next to you, the work that they've got to put in, the struggle that they go through, to just being thankful that you have a water bottle, you have a towel. The work. Like I played 20 years. When you start traveling the globe and playing in different countries and appreciating everyone's culture and what they're about, it's taking the wins along the way, the losses that everyone feels, from an injury to understanding when your team loses. There's a learning curve in everything. Don't drop your lip. There's a way to bounce back, and you got to take the growth out of it. And there's understanding and the process about it. And over my time, I think I've been able to understand that a lot more. Early in my career, it was more, you want to bury your head and be super upset and yell at each other and talk under your breath and talk to behind someone's back. Where now it's more open and direct and to the point. Not here to hurt your feelings. I'm here to speak what's going on and how we can grow from this experience and understand that if we're going to can't just go out and party and sweep it under the rug. But we also have work to do. And not always do you win on the floor, but we also win in the community each and every day. So every day brings circumstances and then understanding your family dynamics. As we all know in sport, it's tough. We got some young players having firstborn babies. I've got 3 of them. I played while I had kids. My wife is a beautiful, strong woman. I've watched her navigate her way and traveling with me, and it's not easy. And so to be able to help in all facets and all areas of this, not just, as I said, it's not just basketball.
But from playing to coaching across the journey, I know massively in Australian rules football, it's gone from maybe 70% coaching, 30% relationships in terms of importance. There's a massive swing in terms of how important relationships are with coaches and players. Is it the same in basketball? Has there been a shift over the journey?
There's definitely been a shift. It has, and that's, yes, like you said, it is worldwide. It is the game, but I think that the basketball side, I think there's an ownership on every part. Everything's been more, I guess, wrapped in a bubble from the strength and conditioning side. How important it is for an athlete to be in great shape, and for your strength and conditioning coach to play a role. And while you don't hear his name, you hear the coach's name. You understand the value and the appreciation of everyone, but that relationship becomes within the organization, like all up the chain, up and down the chain to everyone in the front office that you don't see, that play a major role in helping every player get to where they need to get to be successful as an individual. What we see is the end result of that player and that person achieving his goal. But yes, the relationship side, and it has, as I said, it has swung quite a bit.
CJ Bruton is the new coach of the Adelaide 36 as he joins us this morning. What about your playing roster? Is it finalised, or are there a couple of spots left to be filled, CJ?
There's still a couple of spots left to be filled, and I'll sit down with JVG and Grant and have a few discussions, and my staff to have those discussions of where we're at, and what we need to fill. But not until you get on the floor do you know what is needed, and it's not a thing for me to rush into, as I'm excited to be the coach. But you also know that when you only have a few pieces to move, what's been put in place has been put there for a reason. Building that, nurturing that, and understanding that, and then finding out what you need is where I see is best fit right now.
When do you start, and when does the pre-season start?
Yeah, good question. It's I'm still here in Brisbane as we speak, but I plan on getting there before the end of the month. I've been told that our season is looking to get pushed back, but the boys are turning up as we speak. Some are in town now. A few more arriving in the next few weeks. I'm picking Dusty Cannons up. He's arriving here in Brisbane later today, so we'll get on the floor and start getting to understand each other and again building that relationship that you were talking about. Before he gets to Adelaide and understanding what it means to represent Adelaide 36ers and how I can help him and he can help this club be successful.
Hey, CJ, before we let you go, where were you set up in Adelaide? Have they got you on the beach? Are you in the hills? We've got some nice little hidden gems in Adelaide that the rest of the country doesn't really know about.
Yeah, I'm open to hearing all about it. Actually, my wife, she's been doing building design. She's built a house here in Brisbane for us, and we sold that last year, and everyone here got a little scared. CJ's leaving. I said, oh, just my wife wanted to do this. She thought it was a good time. But now that we are uprooting, I'm sure that she's on the clock. But any advice that you can give, I'm happy to take.
Well, mate, we can't wait to welcome you. We loved the way that you played. You gave your absolute heart and soul on the floor over 500 NBL games, and you'll be embraced by this city. We love our 36ers, so looking forward to getting to the entertainment centre and cheering you on. Congratulations, and thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, fellas. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
CJ Bruton, the new coach of the Adelaide 36ers. It's been a tumultuous time, hasn't it, for the couple of coaches, of course, recently, and surprising with Connor Henry. But sounds like they've got an absolute ripper and spoke from the heart this morning. So looking forward to seeing how the boys go. It's going to be a big summer. 6-time
NBL champion. That man knows how to win it all. So looking forward to seeing what he can do with the 36ers. It is 22 minutes past 8. Top of 17 across Adelaide today. We'll take your calls and your texts all the way up until 8:30. Good morning.
Before we go, let's get into our TV talk. Thanks to Sip and Save, catching up with friends. Sip and Save have you covered with everything you need from a great weekend start at Sip and Save. Obviously, the TV shows last night were dominated by the prelim final losers. That's the way it works, including this from St Kilda champion Nick Revolt on Port Adelaide's performance.
Personally, I'm not a player that's won one. And for this group, if they don't now go on to win one, this night will haunt them. Yeah. So I'm talking about especially the senior players where their careers are closer to the end than the beginning. But for the group that I was a part of, we lost 09 and 10, you could put your head in the pillow because you knew from an effort point of view, you gave everything you possibly could. Didn't execute as well as you would have liked, but from an effort point of view, there was nothing else that could have been done. That's not the case with this game from Port Adelaide. So you have to ask the question, how does that happen? How does that happen coming into a preliminary final? And there can only be really one of two things. Either they had a foot already in Perth, or they didn't embrace the pressure and embrace the hype, because you have to sit on that as a player, and it's uncomfortable. But when that washes over you and you think, gee, we're under a bit of pressure because of all the things we've spoken about, that's the moment when you say, OK, that's all right, the pressure's fine, but I know that when the moment arrives, I'm going to commit my body. And they just didn't do it.
Disappointing finish. So what's important, though, is that the fallout from Saturday night was always going to be brutal, but they're still in a premiership window. So this isn't the last opportunity. And obviously we live in the now, but you would just hope that at least the next year, maybe the next couple of years, it is a genuine opportunity.
Yeah, as I said as well, it took me back to 2007 and some players never recovered from it. And he makes a good point. If this is the last opportunity, it's going to haunt you for a long time. He also had his say about Geelong and their similarly disappointing performance.
I think the smashing could be a blessing. I really do in the end, because if you play it out to a 15 or a 20-point loss and you fall into, well, gee, are we still close? Are we still close enough where we can roll it out again and try again and we might get over the top? No, I think it's a big enough reality check to now make meaningful change. Doesn't have to be drastic change, but meaningful change. Whether that's personnel, game style and system, I would imagine a combination of the lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that has to be the epiphany for Chris Scott and the Cats to make some change.
It's a good point, isn't it? List changes for the Cats over the summer. That's going to be very, very interesting to watch how it pans out.
It will be for a number of clubs. Unfortunately, they're not in as good a position as Port Adelaide with the way that their list is situated. A lot more upside for Port Adelaide, albeit it doesn't make the performance justified in any way from the weekend. A busy show to all